Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to your favorite news destination. You're watching In Your Interest with me, Kabir Naqvi, and we've got three specific segments for you, all in your interest. And first up is the 10-minute race that's now been called off. A major shift in India's fast delivery race. Blinkit, Swiggy, Zepto, all on our smartphones. They've hit the brakes on their ultra-fast 10-minute promises. But whilst the clocks stop ticking on paper, the real issues, well, they still remain. After mounting pressure over gig worker safety, the quick commerce platform like Blinkit, Swiggy and Zepto, they've officially dropped their controversial 10-minute delivery claim following a direct intervention by the Union Labour Ministry. And the company has quietly but decisively changed its principal tagline from 10,000 plus products delivered in 10 minutes to 30,000 plus products delivered at your doorstep. The move follows intervention by the Union Ministry of Labour amid growing concerns that aggressive delivery timelines were putting gig workers' safety and their lives at risk. And according to officials, Union Labour Minister Mansukh Mandaviya personally engaged with the top executives right from Blinkit, Zepto, Zomato, Swiggy, you name it, urging them to drop the fixed delivery deadlines that could encourage risky behavior on the roads. We've all seen it time and again, and, well, some of us have faced it as well. The message from the government is loud and clear. Speed cannot come at the cost of safety. And at that point in time, the decision comes in the backdrop of a nationwide gig worker strike. This happened during the New Year's Eve just last year, even on the 25th of December last year, where delivery partners across platforms protested unsafe delivery pressure. The earnings are falling and a lack of their social security. That strike pushed the centre to step in. Labour Ministry sources say the focus now is on safer working conditions, income security and dignity for gig workers as the labour rules under the new labour codes will finally take shape. Now, Aam Aadmi Party Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament Raghav Chadha, he put gig workers' struggles at the centre of this national conversation. Take a look at that video for yourself. Not just in the parliament, but out there on the streets. Dressed in a delivery uniform, Raghav Chadha stepped into their shoes, riding along, navigating apartment complexes, elevators and the tight timelines, the 10-minute race that's now been called off. And while scrapping the flashy 10-minute delivery branding may appear like a win, the problem, it actually runs far, far deeper. Because for gig workers, this was never just about speed. It's about safety. It's about survival. It's about what kind of incentives and income they get. And of course, dignity. A Fairwork India 2024 survey covering 440 workers across 11 major platforms found that most delivery workers do not earn minimum wages after costs, and they face road accidents, the risks, limited insurance cover, that's a big point, weak grievance redressal and zero formal recognition of the unions. The race for speed is slowing, at least it is on paper, but the bigger question still remains. Will this translate into real safety, fair pay and protection for the people powering the gig economy? To understand that, we're joined by Professor Bijon Misra, a consumer policy expert, to help us understand the plight of these gig workers. And of course, there's a consumer angle at play over here as well. From 10,000 plus products delivered in 10 minutes to now 30,000 products, Professor, delivered to your doorstep. Not in 10 minutes, but then again, for the rider out there, the incentive is far too real to catch. He's still going to make sure that he drives at that immaculate speed, taking all kinds of risks and delivering that pencil to your doorstep within the stipulated time because he wants to earn that kind of interest. So, optics versus the real reform, where do you stand, Professor? Dropping the 10-minute delivery promise, it's being welcomed. We have some reactions as well. We're going to play that out. But first, let's come to you. It is a safety win, but from a consumer and labour policy perspective, is this a substantiative reform or largely just a cosmetic change that still leaves these gig workers at risk?
No, it can't be. Kabir, it can't be a cosmetic kind of an outplay. I think it's the beginning of a big reform which is coming in the country in favor of the labour.
Okay.
And of course, because I always represent the consumer, you see, for the consumer, speed is one of the dimensions of quality. we need delivery with a speed because we want it and we are willing to pay for that, but not at the cost of, compromising on safety, compromising on, the livelihood, compromising in terms of health and other related issues. So what the government's intervention at this point of time is an excellent kind of a intervention in terms of giving a good signal that it's high time we brought in effective and efficient regulations which are neutral, unbiased, and are in favor of the workers. Because at the end of the day, if the workers are happy, if the service providers are happy, if all the people who are working in the supply chain are happy, the consumer is bound to be happy. And that is what the consumer always looks for. You see, as you know, that we as consumers, we also look for, who are those practitioners or providers who, adopt good environment policies, who adopt good wage policies. And you know that all over the world, there was a halla about child labor in the carpet industry in India, which got changed, and there was reforms brought in because world over they boycotted Indian carpets because they were seen using child labor. So like that, the consumers also play a role. When the gig workers went into strike, I firmly recall it was your channel who invited me, and I remember on behalf of consumers, we stood by them, and everybody stood by them. But what we need to understand is the political executives must react on time, and they have reacted. So I'm very happy with the fact.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on News 9, Professor. And, in the run-up to the budget on the 1st of next month, we're going to need your insights even more. But, before I take my next question to you, let's listen in to some of those reactions coming from these gig workers. The pressure is still intact. Many of them are open-heartedly welcoming this decision. But that insurance, all kinds of security measures, along with the fact that the pressure on the workers remains intact. So let's listen into what they have to say as well.
ये जितने भी राइडर है ना, सबके लिए सेफ्टी का काम किया है सरकार ने भैया, क्योंकि ये पहले नहीं था ना, तो 10 मिनट में बंदा कहाँ जाम लगता है, आपको पता है। जब जाम लगेगा तो कितना जाम होता है, बंदा उल्टी सीधी गाड़ी चलाता है, एक्सीडेंट होते हैं। मेरा भी 2-4 बार एक्सीडेंट हो चुका है। ये मेरी उंगली है ना, ये पूरी फट चुकी है, दोबारा इस पर नाखून आया, इसी जल्दबाजी के चक्कर में, क्योंकि कस्टमर का भी दबाव रहता है, ऊपर से कंपनी का भी दबाव रहता है।
10 मिनट बंद किया, 10 मिनट को और बढ़ा के ऊपर किया जाए, हाँ तो ठीक है। सरकार ने जो किया है अच्छा किया है। बहुत ही जल्दी पहुंचाना पड़ता था, कोई डिले होता था तो हमारे रैंक पे दिक्कत आती थी। 10 मिनट का टाइम मिलता है रेस्टोरेंट से और डिलीवरी करने का कस्टमर के पास। अगर नहीं पहुंचते तो कस्टमर हमें गाली देता है, गंदियां तो सुनाता है हमें, और ऊपर से हमसे बोलता है तुम्हारी आईडी बंद करवा दूंगा।
You heard the gig workers there, Professor. The need for speed, of course, it's a qualitative dimension for all the consumers, which you speak for. But it seems like speed was only one part of the problem. The core demands are still being sidelined. They're still unmet. The Labour Ministry has intervened once, but can voluntary changes by these platforms really protect the workers? Because we need binding regulations that fix the pay flaws. We're talking about delivery incentives and safety standards for the entire gig economy at large. If this has to survive and can be sustainable, we need to look into these factors as well.
So, Kabir, this is just the beginning. I think the government would definitely look into all the aspects in terms of the existing labor laws in the country, like minimum wages, social security, health insurance, and ensuring that they get all the amenities in terms of also insurance if there is an accident while they are on the job. So all these issues needs to be covered by the service provider, and we as consumers are always willing to pay for it as long as it is transparently conducted. We always want to encourage ethical players in the marketplace, and at the same time we also want quality. So when we want quality and we are prepared to pay for quality, then the government has to ensure to benchmark in terms of ensuring that there is no compromise on quality to the consumer who is willing to pay and pays for it. At the same time, all the actors who are in the supply chain are well taken care in terms of their welfare. So social security is another dimension which I feel the government has to look into in terms of the unorganized labor. And as I always said, our golden standard is government employees. Whatever you are giving to government employees out of taxpayers' money, the same amenities should be made available to all the employees who are working in the country, and we have to ensure that all unorganized labor are taken care of in terms of their
Talk about
pension.
that golden standard, Professor. Aam Aadmi Party Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament Raghav Chadha putting on the uniform and going with these gig workers, navigating those same gullies, those same bylanes, the same apartment complexes. Sometimes it's you meet a consumer who's in a good mood. Sometimes there's a consumer who's not in the right kind of mood, and you get a hearing, and all those skirmishes are far too real. And this gig worker economy, it's the backbone of this tertiary sector.
Correct, Kabir. But I don't like this dramabazi going on. The politicians have enough data with them, which are factual. They can create actual data. They can do good, robust studies, and they can go with that. But they don't have to be actors on the street. Come on, we don't believe in all these kind of gimmicks. What we as consumers believe is, practical approaches to human beings in terms of their quality of life. We want all the citizens of India to be well taken care and a smile brought on their face. I'm not saying pay fat salaries, but at least pay the minimum wages, which has been determined, which the government employees are entitled to, and they get regularly revised, pay scale. It is always also linked with inflation, and their allowances are linked with inflation. So why not everybody in the country? We have to look at the welfare of all the citizens. We are not only be concerned about the government employees, and they are all being paid out of our and your tax money, but we have to equalize that. We have to give the same facilities to all the gig workers, to all the unorganized laborers in our country. Today they are being, I would like to use the word exploited, because they are not getting their fair share. They should be getting, and the economy will boom. Efficiency will come in, and we'll have more productivity. If we look at the workers, in a very rational manner, in a real human manner, we will get huge amount of good return on our economy, which is not happening today. Right. Today, unfortunately, the competition is not fair. The government employees are not accountable. They are not transparent, but they're getting very fat salaries out of taxpayers' money. And these poor people who are actually working very hard to bring the economy to life.
All pertinent points, Professor. Many thanks for joining us here on News 9 and helping us the consumer policy front on that particular aspect. Minimum earnings, all of this after cost of cost, the accident insurance that you spoke about, social security that you spoke about, and that this being a new leaf that the gig worker economy is turning, and this is just the beginning of the road. Isn't that right, Professor? I think we're going to leave it at that. Many thanks for speaking to News 9.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. I get very encouraged when TV channels cover such stories and bring it in public domain.
All right. Many thanks, Professor. We're going to, again, get back to you. Budget right around the corner. All right, then. We're going to shift our focus here, shifting to a story that we're tracking from Telangana, because it seems like it's a bold move. Chief Minister Revanth Reddy is out there looking out for the elderly citizens, for all those that are neglecting their senior citizen parents. Expect pay cuts up to 10 to 15%, a move that might be tabled in the upcoming budgeting session as well. Take a look at this. Telangana is taking a bold step. All of this to protect the senior citizens, and the consequences for neglect could hit where it hurts the most. It's going to be your wallet and your income. Chief Minister of Telangana, Revanth Reddy, has announced that employees who fail to take care of their elderly parents could face a salary deduction of 10 to 15%. And here's the twist. The money won't disappear into government coffers. It will go directly into the bank accounts of the neglected parents. Now, the proposal is expected to be tabled in the upcoming state budget session, sending a clear message. Neglect your parents, pay the price. And at the same event in Hyderabad, Chief Minister Revanth Reddy inaugurated daycare centers for senior citizens under the Pranam program, the first of their kind in India. These centers aim to support the elderly, especially those abandoned or overlooked by their families. Now, according to the latest Help Age India report, here's some statistics and data to look at. Family members are emerging as the main perpetrators of elder abuse in India. The report reveals that 35% of elderly victims are abused by their sons, whilst 21% face abuse from daughters-in-law. A shocking 65% of seniors are financially insecure, and more than half, 52%, struggle with daily living needs. Health is also a major concern, with 54% of elders suffering from multiple chronic diseases. Now, elder abuse is not just a rural problem. It affects our cities as well, with rates reaching up to 23% in urban areas. We've got a reaction and an expert right on the other side.
మీకు ఈ రోజు చదువు వచ్చి ఉద్యోగం వచ్చిన తర్వాత మీకు శ్రీమంతులైన తల్లిదండ్రులు పిల్లల్ని ఇస్తే పెళ్లి చేసుకొని అత్తగారే మాకు కావాల్సిన వాళ్ళు తల్లిదండ్రుల పట్ల నిర్లక్ష్యం వహించే అవకాశం ఉంది. కాబట్టి మీరు ఎవరైనా తల్లిదండ్రుల పట్ల నిర్లక్ష్యం వహించి వాళ్ళకు జీవనాధారం లేకుండా చేస్తే మీ జీతాలలో 10 నుంచి 15% కోత విధించి సరాసరి ఆ తల్లిదండ్రుల ఖాతాలలో మీ ప్రతి నెల జీతము తల్లిదండ్రుల ఖాతాలకు పోయేటట్టు చట్టం తీసుకొస్తా అని చెప్పినా.
All right, a lot of questions on this particular front as well. As Karam Komireddy, advocate for the High Court, Telangana, is with us here on the broadcast to put the legal soundness and the enforceability of it all into perspective. On the face of it, sir, it seems like this sounds like a strong pro-elder move. Great optics for Chief Minister Revanth Reddy, the Pranam program, one of the first of their kind. But legally speaking, can a state mandate salary deductions for quote-unquote parental neglect without, of course, violating the service rules? We're talking about privacy rights and, I don't know how to put it, principles of natural justice at play.
Well, thanks for having me on your show. I mean, first and foremost, we must understand that there's already a law in place. The law is called the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007.
Yep.
This law was enacted in the year 2007. We have a law in place. But what the law does is it gives powers to the state government under Section 32 of the Act. It gives power to the state government to make rules. And once the state government has made certain rules, those rules have to be tabled on the floor of the House. In the case of Telangana, it has to be laid on the floor of the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council. And then, of course, the members of the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council will debate, discuss that particular bill, and then it will be, after it gets the assent, then it becomes an act. The interesting question that you've asked is, what are the legal ramifications, in the sense that you're saying that there is a possibility that principles of natural justice will be violated and there has to be an amendment to service rules. But I'm sure the state government is cognizant of all of these factors, and when the bill is going to be tabled on the floor of the House, all these legal issues or the legal loopholes will be plugged. But at the very outset, what I wish to say is that this is a welcome move.
Absolutely. Advocate Komireddy, you know what? Of course, that's how I began this segment with. It's a great move. It's a strong, solid pro-elderly movement. How does the state, or any legal institution, really define and prove neglect in these cases? And it's a great point. I'm again mentioning, the money won't go into government coffers. They're going to go directly into the bank accounts of those quote-unquote neglected parents. But how do you prove neglect? Isn't that going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, a challenging task?
Well, it is going to be a challenging task. The law as it stands today is that every person is obligated, responsible to take care of senior citizens. And if the senior citizen is not taken care of, there is a mechanism in place. You go and file a complaint before the tribunal. In the case of Telangana, the RDO is the tribunal, and the case is contested. But unfortunately, these matters take far too long to be adjudicated. For a moment, let's forget that this law exists. For instance, say I am a government servant. I'm drawing salary. For example, say 1 lakh. What is the harm if 10,000 or 15,000 go into my parents' account? Regardless of this law in place, why should anybody have an objection, especially government servants? Or say what the Chief Minister is trying to say here is, he's making a social point. It's on an observation. What he's essentially trying to say is, in Telangana, what happens is, when you get into the civil services or the Group 1 service, your parents that have educated you, you've gotten into service, and it's unfortunate that thereafter, we have the system of dowry, we have system of married into rich families, then obviously you are pro-in-laws and you're not taking care of your parents, and therefore if any complaint does come, we will ensure that 10% or 15% of your salary goes into your parents' account. When he said this, I'm sure there is going to be a mechanism wherein people are going to file their complaints. Complaints are going to be vetted. Maybe there will be a committee which says, okay, fine, we'll look into the complaints and then take a call. For a moment, let's forget that, you are taking care of your parents. what is the harm of 10%? 10% is a meager amount. 10% of your salary going into your parents' accounts, regardless of this law being in place, regardless of there being a neglect. Why should anybody have an objection to this?
Well, 10% of a fat pay package, I do agree with your point. It could be a meager amount, but for those that aren't earning as much, and which is why many of them out there let the natural justice, take its own course. You're absolutely right in pointing all of that out. But then formation of a committee that's going to decide this neglect, due process, and the misuse risks that we all don't know yet. But you rightly pointed out there is a welfare law already in place, the Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act. From a legal policy perspective, sir, is this proposal, according to your own understanding, a prudent extension of that existing law, or does that now risk turning a welfare obligation into a punitive mechanism, which, by the way, it sounds a little bit forced right at the outset? I'm again saying, welcome step, great optics of the Chief Minister, one of its kind Pranam program, but could it be forced punitive mechanism at play?
Not at all. The reason I say this, I'm a lawyer, I'm personally dealing with cases of Senior Citizens Act. I have cases that have been pending for the last 2-3 years in the courts. The senior citizens are roughly 75 years, 80 years.
All right.
They have to run from pillar to post to have, to have a verdict declared. This law, if at all anything, fast tracks the whole process. It's only telling you that if you're a government servant, if you receive a complaint from your parents saying that there is neglect, we will ensure that 10% of the salary or 15% of the salary is straight away deposited into your parents' account. When I say straight away, I'm sure they're going to have mechanisms in place
Absolutely.
to ensure. And to come back to your pay package, it's a relative term. 10% of 1 lakh,
you're right.
50,000, 10% of 2 lakhs. I think this is a welcome sign. It's too early to have apprehensions about it. I am positive that the Assembly will discuss it, debate it, and probably have a mechanism in place to ensure that there are no vexatious
Needless to
complaints.
speak of. You're absolutely right. I mean, no apprehensions here. Hey, I was just trying to be the devil's advocate over here, just so that we could talk about it. If my parents are watching this right now, I love you, Mom, Dad. And I'm sure to make sure that I don't neglect you. Many thanks, Advocate Komareddy, for speaking to us here on News 9 and putting this into a legal perspective and, of course, the legal prudence of it all. It is a welcome step. Let's hope that good sense prevails and that committee actually sets out to do the work that it was intended to do. Many thanks for speaking to us here on News 9.
Thank you so much.
All right, then, shifting our focus to our final segment on In Your Interest. Tonight, we are talking about the dogged pursuit and the debate that's taking place in the Supreme Court. Another round of arguments, pro and for, that happened today. And it seems like, well, if you're out there feeding those strays, you could be at a legal risk. Let's break that down for you. Because if you feed stray dogs, beware, the Supreme Court has dropped a bomb today. You could face legal liability for every bite, every injury, and every life that's lost. The Supreme Court indicated that both civic authorities and dog feeders could be held liable for injuries or even deaths caused by stray dogs. During the hearing, the bench led by Justice Vikram Nath, Justice Sandeep Mehta, and Justice N.V. Anjaria said that those who care for stray dogs cannot simply feed them and let them roam freely. Justice Nath warned, do it, take them to your house. Why should dogs be loitering, biting, and scaring people after you've fed them? Justice Mehta questioned sharply, who should be accountable when a 9-year-old child is attacked? The organization feeding them? Can we just shut our eyes to this entire problem? Is a question that the justice asked. Now, the court is monitoring compliance with its November order, which mandates that local authorities remove stray dogs from bus stands, railway stations, hospitals, schools, and other public spaces. I'm learning public parks was something that was added to that list, or at least arguments for that were done. Vaccinate or sterilize them and not release them back in the same spot, which animal lovers say is going to be detrimental. Now, animal welfare experts cautioned that the court to balance human safety with compassion for animals. They say ABC, the animal birth control, was essentially the spirit behind it was compassion for these animals. And senior advocate Pinky Anand stressed that culling is not the solution and inadequate infrastructure is fueling this problem at large. Meanwhile, senior advocate Menika Guruswamy argued that the issue is deeply emotional, to which Justice Mehta retorted, so far, the emotions appear to be only for the dogs and nothing for the humans. The hearing also featured heart-wrenching testimony from a bite victim, Kamna Pandey, who recounted being mauled 2 decades ago. Yet, in an incredible turn, she comes out and says that she adopted the very dog that attacked her, showing the possibility of love, care, and rehabilitation. So much that's going on inside the Supreme Court when you're talking about the dog debate. And the court also noted that stray dog issues have spread to court premises where municipal staff were attacked whilst trying to capture dogs, sometimes opposed by well-meaning dog lovers as well. And the Supreme Court has clearly said that human lives and safety cannot be compromised, and prolonged inaction has its own consequences. Now, the hearing will continue on the 20th of January. We're learning all the other state counterparts will come and put their recommendations on the table as to what they're going to do in terms of, assessing the entire situation as the nation waits to see how the apex court balances compassion, responsibility, and safety in this growing crisis. Shri Mohi Chakraborty, Director, Public Policy, People for Animals, with us here on the broadcast. Many thanks for taking out the time and speaking to us. A great round of arguments that happened today as well. Responsibility along with compassion. What do you make of the arguments that took place in the court today? You feed them, you're going to be liable for some kind of consequence of punitive action.
See, let's just be very clear that this is just a comment that has been made by the Honorable Justice. It's not part of any order. It's not part of any judgment. We should not take it out of proportion. I think, it's frustration that's making the Honorable Judges also speak. Frustration of non-implementation of solutions by civic bodies, which has led to disproportionate bite cases, rise in rabies cases, etc., etc. But I'm sure that the judges don't mean it, and we should not, blow it out of proportion. It is happening. It's being reported all over the media.
Yeah.
But it's one of the comments. And honestly, I also believe that, as far as community dogs are concerned, it's very well defined that community dogs are ownerless, right? If you read the statute, if you read ABC rules, it says community dogs are ownerless animals, right? To impose liability, right, you have to show breach of duty, you have to show causation or negligence, right? None of this applies to feeders. If at all, what has not been happening is that there has been a lot of cruelty that is being meted out against these animals, and most of the times the bites are provoked. Here we can easily prove causation, right? And if at all liability has to be fixed, then it has to be fixed on people attacking these dogs, right? If at all liability has to be fixed, it has to be on civic bodies for breach of duty and negligence, right? It cannot be on feeders. Right. Yes.
No, point taken. Human safety first, of course, without cruelty. That's the aspect. That's if the larger sense and good sense prevails. The bench has said very bluntly that human lives cannot be compromised. And of course, I was listening to some, reactions right outside in the ramparts of the Supreme Court. A lady that got really emotional, saying that she is taking care of 350 dogs. If anything were to happen to those dogs, it was essentially a self-immolation bid that she, threatened about. But I understand emotions are running high and large. And there seems to be added burden now, would you say so? Because especially on the dog lovers, how can animal welfare groups now ensure that there is public safety? They're already doing a lot of work. Many of them saying that this is the MCD's job that they're having to do, especially for children and the elderly. And this has to be done whilst we're constantly opposing culling and cruelty as well. How do you think this is going to play out? And given that 20th of January is not very far away, we're again going to have another round of arguments then, ma'am.
Right. I think that municipal authorities should work. Again, it's recognized in the parliament has deliberated over it. The legislature has thought about it. This is years of research that has come out as a law, right? So all of this is already in place. There is no legislative vacuum. It already provides for the fact that animal welfare groups should work in consonance with municipal bodies, because at the end of the day, they are not only shouldering the responsibility of the municipal body, it is the feeders, the so-called animal lovers who know how many dogs are there in an area. It is these feeders who are taking, spending out of their pockets and getting dogs sterilized, fed. A well-fed dog is not going to bite you. A starving dog might chase you if you're carrying a packet of food. A well-fed dog won't. It is these animal caregivers that are taking these dogs.
I understand, completely understand. It's just that when you hear about stories of, a little child being mauled, and I know there is always some sort of logical deduction behind it, it just goes on that, emotions take precedence and logic just goes out of the window at that point in time. There's a lot that needs to be done. Of course, there are infrastructural woes. There is a lot of money issue at play. And I think 20th of January is going to, clear the air, because a lot of state governments will come with their recommendations on the table, whether they can do it, whether they can't do it. So let's wait for that. But all in all, it seems like it's a good place that at least discussions are taking place on that note. And just to point out one little thing, the single comment the idea wasn't to take that single comment out of proportion. It's just something that the justice uttered, and so many satire pieces that are doing the round on the internet as well. You can't laugh on it as well, because it is a big issue.
I really want to make this point. This commendable journalism that your channel has always provided. But I think it's also been a little, the media has been a little lackadaisical about its, coverage of the issue. We tend to cover, negative news so much that sometimes maybe possibly we are forgetting to give the positive side of it enough, coverage.
Could be a point.
Something that, we are all in this together. No one wants children to be mauled. No one wants human lives to be lost. But there are solutions. There are well-founded solutions.
Yeah. And let's hope we quickly get to one, because in my limited opinion, Srimoy, this has gone far too long, and this dog pursuit has been going on far too long. The only good thing is that it's great that voices from both sides are being heard. On that note, let's rest this discussion for the time being. We can again get back, talk about this on the 20th of January. Many thanks for taking our time. And before we wrap this segment on In Your Interest, here are some reactions coming from the ramparts of the Supreme Court. Take a look at some of those reactions. Many thanks for watching.
बहुत ही अच्छी पहल है, और ऑनरेबल कोर्ट भी इसमें सीरियस हो रहा है, क्योंकि आज के आए दिन काफ़ी सारे केसेस होते जा रहे हैं.
मैं 350 डॉग्स की फीडर हूँ. ऑन रोड ऑन ग्राउंड सेवा करती हूँ. मैं सेवा करती हूँ. आप लोग क्यों नहीं समझ पा रहे हो? आप इनके पास है क्या? ना सिर की छत है, खाने को रोटी हम दें तो है. इनके पास है क्या जो आप छीनने लगे हो? इनकी सांसें सिर्फ, उसको छीनने के लिए आप लोग तैयार बैठे हो. पहले जो यहाँ पे लोग जो हैं, ना सिर्फ दिल्ली में बल्कि कई शहरों में सांस नहीं ले पा रहे हैं, इस पर सरकारों के अगेंस्ट क्यों नहीं जुर्माने लग रहे हैं? सबसे पहले तो ये होना चाहिए कि हमें सरकारें कायदे की सड़क दे दें, उन सड़क ना देने पर जुर्माने लगे, हवा दे दें, पानी दे दें. पानी जहरीला हो गया है इंदौर का, सरकार के ऊपर क्या जुर्माने लगे?
तुम डेस्टिनेशन वेडिंग के लिए बजट रोते थे, पर पिक्स कितनी अच्छी आई हैं.
बहुत क्यूट लग रही हो.
ऑब्वियस, अपने दम पे शादी करने का ग्लो.
इनकी जिद ने किया डेस्टिनेशन वेडिंग का सपना सच, अपने दम पर. टाटा कैपिटल पर्सनल लोन्स के साथ.